Hello, everyone, and welcome back to the Upward Spiral podcast. We are so thrilled to have a colleague of ours, Dr. Mary Leung. Thank you so much for being here.
And thank you so much for having me today.
Yeah, definitely. So I'm going to read a bit about Mary. So Dr. Mary Leung is a physician who's board certified in internal medicine, medical oncology, and hematology. She's also a certified life coach who's passionate about serving physicians who are stressed, overwhelmed, and burnt out. Dr. Mary Leung was working and charting after hours, many nights and weekends until life coaching transformed her life. She is now going home at least 2.5 hours earlier than before, with all her clinical work completed for the day. Wow, I can't wait to hear about this. From the depths of her own experience, Dr. Mary founded Shining with Gratitude MD. Her passion and mission is to guide other physicians through their unique situations so they can feel better, have more time outside of their clinical work, regain control, and have more clarity. Her hope is for physicians to rediscover joy in life and in medicine. Dr. Mary believes that if physicians can enjoy practicing medicine again, they could take better care of their patients. Through renewal, they can shine brighter for their families and all the lives that they touch. Dr. Mary, again, I'm so excited for this conversation. I think for Gina Marie and I rings true in terms of everything we believe in. I am teaching future physicians, so I want them to be reinvigorated about the career. So please, can you tell us? I talked about it a bit right there, but what brought you from just, I don't say just being a physician, but being a physician practicing to now also transforming lives as a life coach?
Well, thank you for asking this question. And of course, yes, I'm still a full-time hematologist, oncologist, and also a life coach for physicians. So what brought me here was that, well, my short version of the journey is that after fellowship, I got my first job as a group practice, a private group practice of hemonc, and I just had that belief that, oh, everyone's hardworking, work long hours, that's a given. And so I did. My schedule quickly got filled up full in a couple months, and I was just working later and later, and the burden of charting was just getting more and more, and to the point that I was going home past 7 o'clock and still had a lot of charts to do, and oftentimes also in the weekends that I would spill over to do my charts. And I had young kids at that time. I mean, they're teenagers now, but at that time, and I just wanted to see them. I just wanted them to remember that I was the mom, and so I would go home past 7 before the bedtime, spend some time with them, and then a lot of times when they went to bed, I would just be charting more. And just thinking back, it was quite miserable. I was just barely getting by. I was not really enjoying taking care of patients anymore just because I was so exhausted. I wasn't able to be connecting with the patients the way that I wanted. And I mean, I didn't really make any major mistakes or anything, but it was almost like I was on the verge of because I was just so tired. And so day in and day out, that went on for quite a few years. And I wanted to quit many, many times. And I felt stuck. I felt frustrated, annoyed, and all these negative emotions. And I didn't want to move because I already moved 8,000 miles from my home, from my parents from Hong Kong. And I'm here in New York because of my husband's family. And thankfully, I have very cool in-laws. And so I know I just want, to be with my friends, family, want to be here. And I think financially I wanted the income that I was earning. So I felt stuck and I didn't know what to do. And I wanted to work less hours until the pandemic came. And yes, no one wanted the pandemic, but then that was the point that I had a taste of just seeing a third of my usual patient load. And I was going home on time or earlier than on time. And that felt wonderful. And I was just thinking, what if I could do this on a regular day when I was seeing the same number of patients I used to see? So around that time, I had time to just look around, explore online, and um, and then I got introduced to this, virtual summit on physicians doing things outside of medicine. And that's where I got introduced to life coaching. No clue what that was. I thought that it was just, coaching was just for sports. And so at that time, because I was just have been so chronically exhausted, I just wanted to feel better. So I thought whatever that I could do, I would try to do something different to make myself feel better. So I joined a women physician coaching program. And that was my turning point. That makes sense to me, that how, I could just be more mindful of what I was thinking, and that would affect how I feel and how I act and all. And so, for as a physician, I wanted to get to know everything or get to the bottom of everything. So I actually joined a certification program for life coaching more to learn more about it. And it really makes sense. You know, um, it really kind of just opened up a whole new world to me. And at that same time, I was working with my coach to say, hey, the biggest problem for me was really the work hours. Is there a way to kind of change that without changing my work environment? And so the long story short was that in about 3 months, just working on how I changed the way that I think about things, how I was able to focus. And of course, we can talk a little bit more in detail about that
Mhm.
later. That I was able to just start going home by 5:30 with all my work done. And you know, right now, I would just say that I see about 20 to 26, 27 patients a day. And I'm going home by 5 o'clock consistently. So with that, I gained back these, 2+ hours a day that I was just thinking, it's not only the time that I gained back, but it's also my sanity, my mental health, and I feel more fulfilled and more grateful because of what happened to me. And I am able to connect with patients better. So I was like, what if I could just help other physicians do the same? And that, because, there's this mass exodus, a lot of physicians are talking about leaving medicine or just doing part time. And by the time that we get old, we will have no doctors to take care of us if that keeps going on. So I thought that, well, if I could just help other physicians to through my journey to do the same thing, that would be great. We go into medicine really not to be charting machines. We want to take care of patients, and I think just through coaching that I'm able to do that. So I want to do the same and help other physicians.
Wow. Wow. What does that bring up for you, Dr. G?
That's amazing. Thank you so much for sharing your story. There's so many beautiful nuggets in there that I would love to get to. I'm sure the pressing question is like everybody wants to know is how she's getting her work done by 5:30. But before we get there, you said something where you said you were willing to do whatever it took to feel better. You wanted to feel better. It sounded like you hit your metaphorical like bottom, right? You're ready to do whatever it took. And you happened to be in a place where you were exposed to coaching, you were exposed to different things. What did that look like for you? And was that scary? Were you skeptical about coaching and all those things?
to me. So I was, of course there was some little bit of doubt, that, oh, wonder if that's going to work. At the same time, is I think the stronger feeling was, it's going to work. Like there's that hope that it's going to work. And this is, you know, by a physician for physicians. I'm like, I think being physicians is like there's that trustworthy factor, and so I'm like, you know what? Let me just give it a try. Because if I don't try something different, I'll just be staying the same.
Mhm.
And at least if I try something different, and that's what I tell my oncology patients too. It's like, hey, we don't know, we can't guarantee it's going to work, but if you don't try it, we know where it's going.
Yeah.
So yeah, so I did.
Beautiful. So how did you, I guess the pressing question, how did you transition to getting all your work done on time? Are you seeing less patients? Are you able to focus better? What does that look like for you?
Yeah, so the number of patients I'm seeing, it's actually the same, which is, yes, which seems unreal. And in the beginning, I didn't think that it was possible. But I think the important thing is just, even though you're far from your goal, you got to believe that it is possible. Don't think of the how just yet. Just practicing on the belief that you can do it. Because it's like, if you don't believe in something, you won't try it. You won't try something different. You won't give in the effort to do it. So I think that belief is so important. And yes, this did not happen overnight, and that's okay. It just happened little bit by little bit. And I think in general, it's also like you can you have your longer term goal. It's like, okay, I want to go home by 5. That's my long term goal. And when I was going home past 7 with work still incomplete, I would be happy to go home by 7 with everything completed.
Mhm.
So if I achieved that point, then I was like, okay, maybe how about like try 6:30, just little increments. It's just like, I guess, we encourage patients to lose weight, right? There's that longer term goal, maybe like 50 pounds. And then it's like, okay, that sounds scary. And how about just 1 to 2 pounds a week? And I would just say that most everyone would say that, okay, that's doable. And so you just go little by little like that. I think a lot of things is really mostly how you think of the situation, what your mindset is. That's kind of start everything, because even if you have all the techniques that you need to do it, without the mind to drive you, you can't do it successfully.
Wow. That's what it says. So it seemed to be kind of a change in mindset led to greater focus, which led to more efficiency, which equals now you're getting home 2, 3 hours earlier.
Yeah.
Which begs the question then, are physicians spending too much time dreading the day, wasting time that they could being more efficient and getting home earlier? Is that or is that what you found I was going to say, or what have you found now coaching physicians in this exact thing that you went through? What have you found to be their barrier?
Yes. I think, of course, a big thing is, I'll just say that, just to address it quickly, the medical system has to change. You know, I'm not saying that, oh,
We
by
spoke on
being,
that. We talked
it's like,
about that.
yes, that system has to change. It's going to take a long time to change. So before that happens, it's what can we do individually to make our lives better and make our patients' lives better. So of course, a lot of people, and I'm speaking from my own experience too, is that, when you're tired, when you're exhausted, is really, really tough to start your day. So it's like at some point you kind of like, need to do a little reset button. And I think the resetting part is a very important part. It's actually sleep. Having adequate sleep, because when you wake up in the morning, you feel more refreshed than, if you wake up just, kind of not feel rested. So that's a very important thing. The second thing, it's also very important before you even start your day at work, is how you think about your day. And I find that that is so helpful. So when I wake up in the morning, and I always share that, in podcasts and also with my physician clients is that you get to choose what your day is going to be like. Meaning, like you can't choose the events that will happen, but you can choose how to approach them, how to think of them. So when I wake up in the morning, I just I practice gratitude. I'm just thankful for another day on earth to make a difference. And instead of focusing on things that I can complain about, because the more you focus on something, the more you will find. So if you focus on things to complain about, you'll find them all. But if you focus on something that you're grateful for, you'll find them all too. And the second thing is I d- I have a sentence that I say to myself that today is going to be a good day no matter what happens. So that's my sentence. It's probably not going to be your sentence, but that's okay. Your sentence could be something like today is going to be a manageable day, or today I'm going to crush it, whatever it is, that it's something that is positive, that is doable, that is going to generate some uh, positive energy. You rather that than having the dread that, oh, it's going to be a long day. Oh, I have to see that patient, and that nervous patient that I don't want to see, or something like that. Just focus on what you can control, and that's your mind. It's if you think that you're going to have a good day, you're going to find ways subconsciously and consciously to make it a good day. And when I say that is, no matter what happens, is I take into account of surprises, good or bad. So of course in medicine a lot of things change, and a lot of unpredictable things happen throughout the day, and especially like if you're working in the ER, or even in my office, it's like some people they get sick from the chemo, and then they can add on to my schedule, like different things can happen. So then I don't argue with them happening. I could have said that, oh, that shouldn't have happened, my day should have been just smooth and uneventful. But that's not real, that's not life. And so real life, it's that unpredictable things happen, accidents happen, and I'll just deal with it. And I think that energy is so important. And when you're working in, especially in the outpatient setting, you usually work with a little team. You may have your medical assistant, you may have your nurse practitioner, physician assistant, nurses, whoever it is. You bring that energy with you for them.
Sure.
So I usually in the morning, I also have a little quick huddle with my medical assistant and nurse, because those are the two people I work with the closest. And well, these days they know to say it before me. It's like, today's going to be a great day, right? So that kind of just brings, that energy. It's that, okay, we're not going to complain about things, we're just going to deal with things straight on, head on. And when you have a good team, you're going to be more efficient by just having a great team with great communication. And of course, we can talk more about the whole technical aspect of things, of what to do. But I think, just by starting your day like this, it's going to be so much different from if you're dreading your day to begin with.
Wow. I loved what you said about as a physician, you kind of get thrust into leadership. Like you assume these leadership roles without even realizing it, right? You are in charge of your team and you set the tone for your team. You took that responsibility. And because of that, you have those days because you bring everybody together, and whoever, maybe they had a bad day or something's going on at home, but you say, listen, guys, we're going to have a good day. We're going to have a great day no matter what happens. And they trust that you're their leader. And I think there's something absolutely beautiful to that. And they honestly, I felt it when you were speaking about it. I feel like they probably have so much gratitude for you and the way that you show up in your like work, and what a beautiful, and like that presence definitely carries through to your patients through you, but also through your team, right? Your medical assistant, your nurse.
Until the system changes, I think we kind of have an answer here of how we can change at the individual level, right? I 100% agree with everything you said, G, right? It's completely, if you're the leader of that medical team, yes, it's a team, but you have to lead not just with the medical knowledge, but with the mindset and the approach for the day. I mean, it's something I've never thought about because I don't think this is something ingrained in our training. It's not ingrained in medical education, in really any level of beyond you're the leader as the medical leader, but not as that mindset, right? And how much that can affect your day to day, it's unbelievable. So until the system changes, I mean, this is the magic equation here. So my next question then is, Mary, when are you writing a book? Because we need people to hear about this.
Interesting that you said, mentioned something about that. Well, I'm actually going to. It's not. Well, I'm going to write a chapter of a book. It's kind of like a collaborative book.
Collaboration. That's fine.
Yes.
I'll take it. I'll
So
take it.
I'll let you know. I don't think I'm allowed to say more than that, but
That's
my first draft is actually going to be due next week. So so
okay.
that's so
Good.
interesting. It's like you're reading my mind.
I got you. Well, I'll tell you, I'm excited for that. And if that is successful, which I'm no doubt in my mind it is, I think as a friend and colleague, I'd recommend a book should supersede that after just of everything. This will just be the trailer for your book, right? Eventually in the future, I think. But anyway, what the reason I say this is because it's something I've never thought about as a physician, and I think that more physicians need to hear about this. I think that listen, there needs to be a focus on the system and the things that are wrong with it, but I think we tend to, and I'm guilty of this, get caught up in that conversation of how much is wrong with medicine right now, which there's plenty. And I'm not saying that we shouldn't, but maybe we also at the same time need to be talking about what's right about medicine and what we can still do until the system changes, right? Because there are clearly things that we can still do. So I think that's really interesting. G, does this inform you at all for your wonderful practice that you've started? Is this any light bulbs going off? I don't know. I'd love to hear about that.
It's definitely certainly making me think. The word that keeps coming to mind is responsibility. And it's not responsibility in that like I have to do something. It's that we get to take ownership of the people that we work with and we get to bring this like level of energy to them. And I think often I think about sometimes, right, when you're working in a medical practice or a hospital, it's easy to complain about the people that you're working with if they're not behaving in a way that makes you happy, right? Or as you think they should. But if we look at it from a different lens and say, I will, as the leader, take the responsibility to be the leader and show them from the top down, like with a different mindset or whatever it is, it's we're all responsible, right? And it's just taking on that responsibility. I think it's kind of shifting from almost like a blame mentality or like a victim mentality that people are behaving a certain way to taking it back and saying, what, like exactly what you were saying, Mike, what can we do in this, exactly the way it is now to make things better without like changing the system, which obviously needs to change, but from this like perspective. So I guess leading into that, Mary, what would you say if somebody is kind of feeling overwhelmed with work and they're feeling like their team is kind of all over the place? What's a piece of advice you would give them? Where would you recommend they start?
Start individually, start yourself. And it's like, okay, what are you focusing on? What are you thinking that is making you feel overwhelmed? And I think one important distinction is really realize that yes, the situation itself is neutral. It's just when we put a thought, an opinion on it that makes us feel whatever we're feeling. So it's like, how are you viewing the situation that is making you overwhelmed? And is there any other way to view it? And kind of like what you were saying, like, if you change a different lens to look at the same situation, is it going to be a little bit different? And I think that that's why, being mindful of what we're thinking and feeling, it's really such a great skill that I've learned, that because we have so many thoughts throughout the day that a lot of them we don't even realize that we're thinking. And now, being more mindful, at least, I have more awareness of what I'm thinking, and that's affecting how I'm feeling. And of course that affects others because, when your emotions are contagious, and so if you're happy, you're going to affect someone else in the same room the same way. So it's like, and that I carry that, into the patient care, because I think that when you walk in the room, like, you can sense that, oh, that patient is anxious,
Mhm.
and if you walk in a room that, you're just having that love and kindness into the room, the patient feel that even if you don't say it, there's like, oh, that doctor is here for me. So I think that, in order to do that, of course, it's like you got to be not burned out yourself. You got to be not in survival mode. And so it's kind of like everything is all connected. And so it's, yeah, take care of yourself first. That's why I said that whole sleeping thing. It's very important, and waking up and really like just be taking care of your mind, it's taking care of your mental health, and that kind of like just everything just flows together.
Mhm. I
Wow.
think what came for me was what you were saying about having the thoughts in our heads, right? We have thousands of thoughts that go on all day. They're usually oblivious to us. And one of the things you said, you have your sentence that you say, and Tony Robbins is very, very famous life coach, and he talks about incantations, and that's exactly what that is. We can either have negative incantations, thinking this day is going to be terrible. I have so many patients. The system is broken. Everything that's wrong. And it's become so ingrained that you don't even hear it anymore. It just, all you feel are the feeling, the anxiety, the stress, the tension. And once you're able to take control of the incantations, you're telling yourself, like, you have your sentence, that neuroplasticity, you start those wires, right? The neurons that fire together, and you start relaying it. And all of a sudden, you feel better because your brain starts to think those, like, you're able to think those thoughts without trying. They just kind of happen.
Yeah, I think that's phenomenal. Something that popped up for me is, and you mentioned it a bit before, Mary, but have you found that not only your day has gotten better because of this, have your patient interactions gotten better because of this?
Sure. And I just think that I'm able to talk about more chance to talk about things outside of their diagnosis. And I think the true human connection, it's what I
Mm,
value the most, in the doctor patient relationship. And I think, and that's one of the reasons I get into, medicine and on oncology. I enjoy that long-term relationship with patients. And I mean, a lot of them, I know like what their routines are like, I know who does what sit-ups. I know, like, sometimes I know their family members' names. And it's really wonderful to have that relationship. It's like almost like family. And that I think that sometimes I even sneak in some coaching concepts
mhm.
into the visits. Yeah, it sounds like I cover a lot in the 15-minute time slot that I have with follow-up patients, but it is possible because it's like, it's not really the amount of time that you spend, it's the quality, of time that you spend with the patient. Sometimes it's just even one sentence that makes a difference. And sometimes it's like we discuss that I encourage them to read a certain book, for self-development, and so I just really enjoy it because, and especially for the anxious patients, that, I sense that they're anxious, but I'm able to really be fully engaged. And because I know that in the past, I would be kind of like somewhat annoyed having to, just anticipating seeing that anxious patient, because I would be thinking that, oh, I have to spend this much time to explain to the patient, and then I would be kind of impatient. And that, just thinking back, that would, you know the patient sense it. It's easy to sense like that kind of unspoken language. And so that now, because I just have that mental capacity to do things differently, that I'm just telling myself before going into the room that, okay, I know this patient is anxious, and I'll do my best to, not necessarily have the patient completely calm down, but at least feel better, to feel more confident, and to feel more comfortable about, what we would discuss, and understand the situation better. And I'll just say that I'm so grateful that I'm able to do that. And my patients, like they usually tell me that I feel better after talking to you. And I think that is, almost more rewarding than saying that, oh, the treatment is working. Of course, that's very important, but they're both important to me.
Wow.
Wow.
It seems like you did this magic during your encounters where you detach time from the quality, right? And able to like the time doesn't really matter. It's this energy you're bringing to those encounters. And we're talking about oncology. This can be a very heavy topic. People are coming with a lot of anxiety. And I think it's beautiful. It is like almost like magic, like what you're able to do just to bring your presence and fit something within that time segment that maybe you couldn't have done in like an hour or half an hour because you worked on yourself and you're bringing this new level of energy
You're expanding the limits of,
of
yeah,
time,
Sorry.
right?
yeah, you're
I was going
expanding the limits of time. You're expanding the limits of our system, our healthcare system. But Mary,
Mhm.
what were you going to say? Sorry.
Yeah. I was going to say that obviously, there are certain times that I need more than 15 minutes,
Yeah.
to say, for example, if I have to talk to the patient about progression of their cancer, things like that. So, but I think in general, it's like, I'm able to, kind of fit those patients in and still be able to leave by 5 o'clock. So I think that's really great. And I think it is, I always think that if I can do it, other people can do it too.
Mhm.
Like I said, I think this is magic what you're doing, but I think that you said to yourself, the system can't change right now, so I'm going to change. And that's all we can do sometimes, right? You can only control what you can control, but it's had an immense impact, not only on your life, not only on your patients' lives, which it sounds like you have by the thousands, but now you're affecting so many other physicians through your coaching, and in turn, all of their thousands of patients. And hopefully, our readers will really listen to this, and you'll affect even more lives. So, on that note, Mary, where can our readers, our listeners rather, connect with you, hear about your coaching, learn more about your services, and I'll link all of this at the bottom of the show. But could you tell us all where they can find more about you?
Sure. So my website is www.shiningwithgratitudemd.com. And of course, that's my company's name, Shining with Gratitude MD, because I'm really grateful for what has happened to me and how I can uh, help change people's lives. And so my email is shiningwithgratitudemd@gmail.com. And I'm also on Facebook, Mary Leung, and LinkedIn, Mary Leung MD.
Amazing. I'll link all of this, by the way. This was an amazing conversation. Dr. Long, truly thank you for everything you're doing for healthcare and for your patients and all the positions now that you're coaching. G, any final words on all this?
Thank you so much for sharing. This has been very insightful and just a beautiful conversation. Thank you.
Thank you so much for having me.
Bye, everyone.